Hey, Taco Tuesday fans, this is Christian Brindle.
And I am Glen Shelton.
We came together and combined our forces to create something special for insurance agents called Taco Tuesday. Let's taco about insurance. My company, Christian Brindle Insurance Services,
and my company, Lead Heroes,
is here to bring you the latest and greatest news happening in the insurance industry today and eat some tacos while we do it.
If you enjoy the content that we put out on this podcast, feel free to leave us a review or subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.
Without further ado, let's get into this episode of Taco Tuesday. What's up, everybody?
Woohoo! Taco Tuesday.
Welcome back to another rendition of Taco Tuesday. Let's talk about insurance. I'm Christian Brindle. He's Glen Shelton. And today we're here to talk to you about all things tacos and all things insurance in the insurance industry. I have a confession to make, though. I don't have any tacos today.
I'm sans tacos as well. And here's the other thing I need to get out of the way right away, you guys. I feel like there's a new sponsor for the new year. You know, we're in January. At least the time that this video is being recorded, it's January. And I just, this happened already on our past episodes. I have a Costco size pack at my disposal, you guys. Red Bulls. I know Christian's just getting jealous. Let's see if I can get a little product placement here. Red Bull for insurance professionals. It gives you wings. So unofficial sponsor, Taco Bell. Taco Bell had years to jump on this opportunity. We still haven't heard from them. That's on Taco Bell at this point. So cheers, you guys.
Oof, man. I mean, I've shared this before, and I'll share it one last time on this platform. But my wife will not let me have Red Bull. So when I do have it, it's basically betraying the sanctity of our marriage. I mean, our deal is she loves to drink Dr. Pepper, and I love Red Bull. So we kind of
that's my wife. That's my wife's like go-to is Dr. Pepper. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
my wife loves Dr. Pepper.
But we're both always trying to get on each other to be healthy. So we kind of try to be each other's accountability partners, but it ends up failing miserably because we just sneak things behind each other's backs. And then it opens up this whole, weird area of we lied to each other. We're betraying each other. It almost starts a situation there's affairs going on, not really affairs, but that's the level of betrayal that one of us feels when we find a Red Bull can or something like that.
Christian, I smell a Red Bull. What's going on here?
Those pop songs where it's I smell it on your breath. That's almost what it's like. I know.
That's hilarious.
It's I don't want to say there's trouble in paradise because there's not, but that's the biggest problems we have on a routine basis. But
hey, if soda's the biggest problem your marriage has, I think good, man. That would be my professional opinion as far as marriage goes. Segue here, you guys. I know we've gotten some constructive criticism from our audience in the past on small talk. So, hey, we're cutting straight to it today, you guys. We're not talking about we're getting right to the heart of the issue. Guys, it's agent compensation. Agent compensation. This is a big topic. I wish we had, 6 hours that we could probably record for 6 hours on this. I really do.
Yeah.
There's some hot stuff going on in the news, on the media, social media that we want to talk about. We kind of touched on some of this in earlier episodes before, but it's agent compensation, how you get paid as an insurance agent. So this is an elephant. Where do you want to start on this thing?
Man, it is the elephant of all elephants. I think a great place to start would be, there was a person that went into the Facebook group in Six Figure the other day and posted that, they had a contract with an FMO. They were contracted as an LOA. They didn't know that they were contracted as an LOA.
Yep.
And they haven't received any of their AEP commissions. Of course, they've been paid out by the carrier. I can speak to that. I've been paid 6 times by that carrier this month. They've gotten nothing. And they just didn't, they're like, what in the world can I do about this? I think a great place to start would be having that LOA conversation.
Yeah, because guys, if you're an LOA agent, LOA stands for line of authority. We've talked about this again before. I think we had like almost a whole episode we talked about this. But if you're an LOA agent, you're essentially assigning those commissions to your upline. So your upline's getting paid from the carrier or from the IMO, and then they are paying you. So you could have, there's all sorts of different types of LOA agreement. And that really comes down to you and your upline. Read your contract. Are you getting a salary? Are you getting marketing money? Are you getting a flat rate per submission? I've seen those types of agreements where the agency is essentially taking on the risk of the marketing dollars, of maybe this policy charges back, and they're just basically compensating you on a per application basis, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen all sorts of creative deals there. So if it's an LOA situation, read your contract, talk to your upline, make sure you know what you're getting paid. And those aren't all bad. There are some bad ones out there. Right. But yeah, specifically, I did see this post. I think, is it messier when you're trying to move contracts when it's an LOA situation?
It certainly can be with some carriers, but for a majority of, at least in the Medicare Advantage world I can speak to, it's not that bad. It's kind of just as simple as, if you're independent and you were changing FMOs, like a lot of times if you're LOA, the biggest issue is you're not going to be getting a release in most cases. So, and we all know, we've talked about this a little bit on the platform, but for most Medicare Advantage companies, at least the national ones, you're going to have to go through about a 3 to 6 month process if you're trying to self-release, right, which is better than the way it used to be. I mean, there used to be certain companies that were, behemoths in our industry that if you couldn't obtain a release, you could never be released ever. Like you are, till death do you part. And there were some of those older agreements in place. It's not really the case anymore, which is good. But it still can be tricky, especially if you have to go through like half a year in some situations where, like, if you're moving from your old FMO, they're not going to really want to help you because you're moving. The new FMO might not want to help you that much either. I mean, they might say they will, but they're not getting any credit for your production for 6 months. So, but a lot of times, the short answer is some companies, it can be trickier in a different process, but it's not that big of a deal for the most part. It's kind of like if you're just changing IMOs or FMOs.
100%. So while you were talking there, I took a second. I wanted to kind of set a baseline for this conversation. So I went to glassdoor.com. If you haven't been there, it's all things jobs, reviews from employers, average salaries, etc. I think this is a relatively reliable site. It's not perfect by any means, but I just typed in insurance agent, right? And I wanted to see what's an average salary. So, again, there's an entry-level insurance job that pops up with Farmers Insurance. That's most likely P&C focused. It's about $17 to $18 an hour, right? So that's probably an LOA position. It really just depends, though. I don't really know exactly, but that's a very entry level. I mean, math wise, what is 17, 18 an hour over full time? What is that? 30 grand? I might have to bust my calculator out here.
That's a great question. So full time, 40 hours a week.
Yeah, 35 grand. Yeah, so I wasn't too far off, right? So that's about 35K. There's a Medicare option here. So, a Medicare agency essentially, and the employer listed an estimate of 50 to 80K as an approximate starting. So obviously it's kind of all across the board. My guess is that the average first year insurance agent probably makes less than it's probably between 30 and 50K would be my guess. First year insurance agent, whether you're an LOA or you're 1099 independent agent, etc. Well, would you say that's fair? 30 to 50K for a first year agent?
Yeah, I think so. Like I think when you factor in commission and things like that, I think that's probably going to be the case. And of course, all structures are different. I mean, there's definitely situations where, like, there's call centers, and we've talked about this before, where they'll they'll put somebody at a 60, 70, maybe even $80,000 salary, but their commission is just like $10 an app or something. So they pay them a much higher salary up front, but the commission gets dragged back quite a bit. And then there's other shops like, I won't say his name because I feel like it gets brought up on every episode, but there's a specific agent in Tupelo, Mississippi, probably, pays a much higher commission and pays renewals and all kinds of things like that. But he doesn't start off as high of a salary right off the bat either, so it's just, there's different models and structures. Like you said, there's a million of them out there. Right. But I think that's probably pretty accurate.
I mean, my first year in the business, again, I was a 1099. I was in an agency, but they were helping with marketing costs. So my comp was a little lower, and I knew that. I probably grossed over $100,000 my first year. My net was definitely below $100,000. But again, I came from I had a really strong sales background coming into insurance. I think that's also kind of part of it. Are you coming into insurance and is this kind of your first sales position? Because obviously if that's the case, you're probably going to be on the low end. You're probably going to be 20 to 30 grand. But if you come in with a really strong sales experience, I mean, I had almost 10 years, 5 years of sales experience, including cold door knocking coming into this. So I felt like I had a pretty strong sales background coming in. So I did probably 70 to 80K would be my guess first year net. So on the high, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, depending on your situation. But what would you say, if you're willing to share, Christian, what would you say your very first year in the insurance world? What was your gross or net or approximate income?
Yeah. I mean, when I first came in, I started in June, kind of halfway through the year, so my first actual tax return reflects about 25 grand.
Okay.
Half the year. The next year after that, it was a bit closer to 60. And granted, I was cold calling. Keep this in mind. I wasn't working leads. I was probably working as dumb as I could, but at the same time, I had very little overhead. If any. Probably the only overhead I had was taxes. And then, the year after that, probably year 3, it was up to about 90. And then the fourth year is kind of when I broke through and, made 6 figures. And then by year 5, I was making well over 6 figures in renewals. And things really started to pick up from there. But it was more of a gradual thing. I think with Medicare, I can say that I probably know 3 people that I can say without a shadow of a doubt made 6 figures their first year as selling Medicare.
Right.
That I know without a shadow of a doubt they did that. But most people that I know, even the big fish, they're just I made 50 grand my first year, I made 30 grand my first year, that kind of thing. Because Medicare is very much it's not as life insurance. You're going to make you can make a bundle really quickly.
Right.
But it's not the same kind of compensation model because the second year and the third year, it's not nearly as lucrative. Medicare pays a lot less of a commission right off the bat. But it's something that, you get that paid that similar commission, or if not the same commission, year in and year out. So it just takes a little bit longer. I think for most people, they're going to make 6 figures, probably 3 to 5 years is what usually the average would be.
I think what you just shared was very realistic for agents coming into the Medicare industry. If you're trying to think ahead, what am I actually going to be making? What's my actual income going to look like? Again, your mileage will vary based on a series of different variables, but in the scheme of things, I feel like the income that Christian just shared was very much so on point. Again, I came in from the life side of the business. So what Christian was saying, I hit 6 figures my second year as far as netting 6 figures, but the compensation model for life insurance is drastically different than Medicare. You really can't compare the two. Including renewals. Technically, you can get renewals on life depending on the type of life insurance that you're selling. Generally speaking, though, those renewals are usually less. And if you're focusing on final expense, those renewals, again, even though they are there, usually you're not thinking about that or planning on banking on renewals and moving forward. So the reason I wanted to get into this right away, though, and talking about our personal experience, is because we want to set kind of your expectations realistically. If you're listening to this, if you're a newer insurance agent, or you're just getting started and you're trying to figure out, the ad I saw, or the recruiter that signed me up, or the agency I got hired on with, they told me this, and this. And, I think generally what I see is the exaggeration. I wouldn't necessarily go as far to say that recruiters are lying to everybody. There's definitely some bad apples out there who are purposely lying and misleading agents and just trying to get you in the door to sell for them. But generally, I think the rule of thumb I'm seeing is people are taking that third year income and they're kind of pitching that as, hey, you could make this right away.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you can make 100,000. Just like like I said, it took me coming in with strong sales experience, coming into this position, and it was really 18 months before I had that, on pace to consistently do 6 figures a year. It's not something that just happened right away. And so what are the ads, though? If you look at the ads, or you're talking to a recruiter, or you're talking to an agency, oh, come on, you can make 150K this year. Come on, So what have you seen, Christian, from recruiters, from insurance job ads, right? Ads that are trying to bring agents in. What are you seeing out there?
Well, I mean, it gets ugly, right? I mean, we all see it on social media in particular.
Right.
We'll see recruiters that, their upline maybe got like a deposit for like 50 grand or something. And they'll post screenshots of it, be like, the homie, blah, 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 just made this. You ready to go? You ready to roll, bro?
Let's go. Who's next?
Who's next, bro? This going to be me in the next 6 weeks. You'll see. And, if you don't get on board, you're going to get left behind, Holmes. Like those are, it's almost like this, like, I don't know, like, buddy, like, come on, bro, like, let's take over the world and, go to India and ride elephants together. Like, that's almost like what the vibe is like, like private jet, bro,
right.
Like that's almost the vibe. And it's cringy. Because like I said, most of the time it's somebody that's way up there in the hierarchy.
Right.
And it's being a lot of times posted by individuals that probably are living in a box somewhere.
Right.
Like they have their phone. They found out a way to find a portable phone charger. They charge it at Starbucks in the morning, and they use that phone to post these pictures of checks that aren't theirs, like, and even if it is theirs, within 3 months, they probably have paid half of it back in chargebacks, like.
really fast while we're on this topic too, is I just saw an agent this morning. And this was the post they did on social media. Cause there's like direct recruiting, right? There's direct recruiting where it's like, hey, sign on with us and you can make 100,000 in your first 12 months. Right. There's like those direct recruiting social media posts, but then there's all these indirect posts that you kind of have to read between the lines on. And here's an example from this morning that I saw on Facebook. And it was definitely like, I saw right through it. Again, I've been in the industry for almost 10 years now. So like I can see through a lot of these things, but if you're a new agent, you're not going to see this stuff and understand it right away. But there was an agent that said, hey, these homes are going for sale in my neighborhood. I'd love to, who's going to be my neighbor next? Right. And then they're just pumping out these listings of like mega houses. Right. And here's the deal, guys. I don't know where that agent lives specifically. Maybe this agent has like $1 million house, or maybe he's in the neighborhood next to these $1 million houses and he's pushing out these $1 million house listings because he's trying to give you the impression that this individual is an extremely successful insurance agent and they're trying to kind of sneakily bring you in. Right. So that being said, I do want to jump into the cease and desist letter that the FTC sent a major life insurance organization, Family First Life. Yeah. All you have to do if you want to see this for yourself And I encourage everyone to read the letter themselves, take anything that maybe Christian and I say with a grain of salt. If you want to read this yourself, literally search FTC letter Family First Life. It will pop up first thing. It did for me, Family First Life, FTC letter. So Christian, did you read? Admittedly, I didn't read every single word. I did kind of skim through it, but I have the gist of exactly what was going on. So Christian, what did you think of this letter?
Yeah, so I did the same thing. I skimmed through it, but I do also felt like I got the gist of it. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up, and what I'll do is I'll just read a little bit of it.
Yeah, that first paragraph's pretty damning.
Okay, so I have it pulled up in front of me, so I'll read a little bit of it to the audience. I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll give you guys the general gist.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
It was printed and produced on December 27th of 2021, so a little bit, maybe about a month ago.
About a month ago. Yep.
It was addressed to Family First Life.
Yep.
And its CEO. And it starts off like this. It's essentially, the claim is earnings claims related to COVID, the coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19. And it says, dear, I'm not going to say his name, but the CEO. It says, this is to advise you that the FTC staff has reviewed social media posts made by Family First Life's business opportunity participants or representatives in December 2021. We have determined that Family First Life is unlawfully misrepresenting that consumers who become Family First Life business opportunity participants are likely to earn
agents. When you become an insurance agent for FFL, yes.
Some examples of earning claims made by your business opportunity participants or representatives include, and then there's quotes, make your weekly salary in one day as an agent with Family First Life. What was your biggest paycheck in a month? Last month I checked on mine and it was like $40K in a month. What attracted you to the business of insurance?
I think so misleading.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was like a combination of multiple things. I was really burned out with COVID stuff, working at a hospital, and my upline, I met him and ... He was making some money, really good money. And I just didn't really have anything to lose at that point. So I kind of was like, let's do it. Posted to TikTok and then there's an address and everything like that. And it just goes on and on and on of these multiple instances of, stories and falsified claims that are put out there. And I think the word you used was damning. I can't think of a better word. My question for you on it is, reading through that and kind of observing a lot of FFL agents, do you feel like it is, because when you're to a size of FFL, right? They've done an integrity deal.
Right. They're big.
They're a pretty big organization. They have a lot of agents. I'm sure they have more than 10,000 agents at this point. Do you feel like it's specific agents that are in their downline and they're just kind of acting, doing their own thing, and FFL is maybe unaware of it? Or is it FFL behind the scenes coaching people on this is how you recruit people? What do you think?
Oof, that's a fantastic, possibly one of the best questions you've ever asked on Taco Tuesday, if I'm being honest, because if you look at like pyramid schemes, or because again, the FTC would be the government organization. Did you ever watch the LuLaRoe documentary, by the way?
Yes, it was. Yeah, okay. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a really good. So that's a total sidebar, you guys. But LuLaRoe is a company that was ultimately a pyramid scheme. A pyramid scheme. Yeah, clothing company. All right. But the FTC got involved and tore them apart. And so seeing the FTC get involved in this organization, what's actually happening behind the scenes. And yes, here's my perspective. I'll share some of my perspective, what I can say that I know. And then maybe I'll share some guesses that could be wrong. Send me a cease and desist letter, FFL, that's fine. If you feel like I took this too far, if you feel I'm liable, I'm happy to respond to that letter. Send it to Lead Heroes. I'll get my lawyer involved. But what I'll say is I've personally seen these ads for years, and I do feel that a lot of them have been very misleading. So my first thing when I saw this from the FTC, I was very excited because I said, again, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, wow, okay, great. Because if we can clean up some of these job ads that are misleading, then hopefully we can get, an agent that comes in and again, rising tide raises all ships. If an agent can come in with realistic expectations, they're probably going to stick around longer. The longer an agent sticks around, the more agents there are, the better it is for everybody, right? We don't have enough insurance agents. We've talked about that before on the platform, but that's never been more true. So I was really excited when I first saw it. Now, these ads that everyone knows is exaggerated to the point of, really lying. Is this being done by individuals? Is this being done by the company? Is the company coaching it from the top? Let's see. Maybe I need to get my lawyer. Hang on. Let me call my lawyer so I can. No, I'm kidding. Here's the thing that I would point to is that this has been a pattern. This has been a pattern I've witnessed regionally all across the US from FFL. So if I had to make a guess, I would say that this is probably something that there would be, if we were to subpoena FFL and I were to gather their email records and their communication records from the top hierarchy, my guess is that you would find that this is something that has been coached from the top down, that they have told agency owners, hey, these are the ads that are working for so-and-so. You should try running these ads, try saying this sort of stuff on social media. And that's not good. That's something that they deserve to be fined for. And in the letter, you guys, I believe it was $43,000 per fine for every violation that the FTC finds moving forward. And that's absolutely par for the course. If they want to keep doing that, that's fine, but they should have repercussions because it's not fair to the agents. So I'll get off my soapbox. What did you think of that? What do you think also of the same question back to you? Is this something that was being done just purely by individuals, or was this really a company-wide problem? A company, yeah. Is there guilt that the entire organization should be holding?
Yeah, I think, like you, I can probably just speculate because I'm not in the inside of that organization, I really just view them from afar. But I would say that I think maybe the answer would be a little bit of both. I do think there are people out there that maybe do things independently and use the FFL name, right?
Sure.
But I 100% agree with what you said, that it's too often, too consistent, too familiar of a message that you see from multiple different outfits or arms or branches of the organization for it to not be calculated. I would have a hard time seeing that. So I do believe it's probably a little bit of both, but I think what they're really probably getting hammered for is, their own conscious efforts as an organization to kind of, this is how we're going to represent ourselves, and this is the message we're going to put out there.
Because you're 100% right. Like the individual, FFL is huge, right? And there's a ton of different downlines. I can tell you firsthand, just from all the different ones I'll talk to. And then I'll think I'm talking to someone like really high up, and then I'll mention like, oh yeah, well, I just talked to so-and-so at FFL. And they're like, oh, that's a different region. Like they're in a different region than me. And I'm like, oh, I thought they were like, yeah, I'm like, oh, I thought that person was like at the top of the hierarchy at FFL. And it's like, well, yeah, they are, but in a different region. And like, so again, I don't know all the inner workings of FFL, but I know that it's a big company, and I know it's pretty diverse. There's lots of different branches. So I do think it's fair to say that there's individuals making decisions that don't represent the company. But here's the flip side of that is the hierarchy at the top, the executive team, you have to self-police the company at some point, right? So at some point, the responsibility of these individuals that work for you falls back on you. And you can't just, you can't sit back and be like, oh, well, that wasn't me. If you're the CEO of FFL, you can't sit back and be like, Oh, whoops. Were all of my downline agents lying about compensation to new agents? I didn't know that. Like, come on, guys. Like, let's be honest. Like, let's make things better for everybody, right?
Well said. Well said. Good stuff, buddy. Good stuff. I mean, this was a great episode.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed this topic, and I felt like, when we were talking about it, talking about this topic, I know it was kind of maybe a little bit of muddy waters, but I thought it was kind of almost like, from a journalistic standpoint, we had to report on what's going on.
Yeah, that was
public knowledge. And
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to kind of see how some of these things transpire, and yeah, big news.
Yeah, it's funny that we had the same idea, that we wanted to talk about this, wanted this to be a discussion here on Taco Tuesday. Let's talk about insurance. Any final thoughts, while we're on the subject of agent compensation, any final thoughts for our listeners, our viewers, our Taco Tuesday army on agent compensation that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would say, I encourage you guys to read your contracts. At least enough to know what you're doing and what you're getting. Make sure that you're not signing over your commissions to somebody else if you're not intending to. That is important. Also, another thing I would encourage you guys to do, I mean, new agents probably don't think to do it, and you might not need to worry about it as much as a new agent, but I don't think there's ever a bad thing about, when you're contracting with someone new, asking for an upfront release. Because if it doesn't work out, you want to be able to leave. I mean, anytime we do any contracting with an organization in a big capacity, we make sure that they will let us go if we ever want to leave. And I've learned that over the years. I usually like to get agreements from people. If I'm just picking up one contract here or there, and I know the person pretty well, like it's just a little contract, I'm not that worried about it. But if I'm going heavy in with an organization, I usually want an understanding that says if we want to walk away, we'll be able to do so. So those two things, just make sure you're protecting yourself. And yep. I think a lot of these situations can be avoided. And unfortunately, a lot of new agents just don't know what they don't know. So hopefully that kind of advice helps some of you to avoid being put in tough situations.
100%. I'll just kind of reiterate some of what Christian just said there. Read your contracts. Do not do anything on a verbal agreement. I can't stress that enough. It's wild to me how many times I've heard that happen in this industry, where it's like, well, so-and-so said they were going to do this. So-and-so said after 90 days, I'd be at, 120% final expense contract, and they never raised my contract. Like, whatever it is, whatever your compensation is, get it in writing. Make sure you understand it. Like Christian said, like if you want to sign over your commissions because you're new and you want as much support as possible, you're trying to get a salary, then yeah, it might make sense. And you need to, as long as you understand what you're doing, that's totally fine. You're a big kid, right? You're an insurance agent, you're an adult, you can make your own decisions. I'm not trying to point you in one way on what's right or wrong, but read your contracts, understand those contracts, and understand, what your moves are if you end up changing uplines, or if you're trying to change how you're getting paid. Understand how that works. Termination, right? If your contracts get terminated by your upline, and depending on when that blackout period is, you might be stuck for quite some time. So be aware of things like that, and making sure that you don't get caught with your pants down, for lack of a better term.
Agreed, 100%. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We're enjoying this kind of new, kind of format. We hope you guys are as well, but we'd love to hear your feedback on it. So if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment in the comment section. Do you like these pre-recorded episodes, where we're not going live, or would you prefer to see us go live again? Give us some feedback. We will be doing a live show once a month, so in the Facebook group. So we'll try to announce that with some advanced knowledge for you, so that way it's coming. But yeah, we'll be back next week, guys. Keep eating tacos, keep selling insurance ethically, compliantly, but in large volume. And
that's right,
see you next week, guys.
Drop us a comment, leave us a review. Thanks, you guys.